Welcome to Social and Psychological Foundations of Sport. We appreciate you tuning in today for this brief presentation. What I'd like to do today is simply start talking about the class and how this will serve as a beginning point for what it is that we're going to be doing as we move forward. Before I discuss some of the rationale and the logistics of the course, I thought I would take the time to provide a short introduction. My name is Mark Vermillion, and I'm a professor and chair for the Department of Sport Management here at Wichita State University. My background and training is in sociology, psychology, and criminology, and I've spent many years using all of these different views from the social science point of view in both the classroom and applied settings. I've done this within sport, recreation, and physical activity, and I've done this outside of sport, recreation, and physical activity. What I've tried to do with this course is blend all these different areas into one class. You'll be exposed to a little bit of sociology, some psychology, some social psychology, and then this whole idea of intervention strategies and how research can be used every single day. In regards to the class, this online course does not require a textbook, and all the materials that you'll find for the course are posted on the Blackboard course shell. If you're new to Blackboard, then please feel free to contact me personally and we can work together to get you acclimated to this type of learner management system. Please take a little bit of time to surf around the course shell and make sure you're aware of where the course materials are located and the resources that are available to you, the students. The syllabus, which you'll find in the menu option labeled as, shockingly enough, syllabus and schedule, is a document that explains all aspects of the course. I know student life is busy, but I really recommend that you view this document since it's essentially the guiding policy for what it is that I'll be doing within this course. It's going to give you things like due dates, course expectations, total points for the class, learner outcomes, and policies on how I deal with and accept late work. Near the beginning of the syllabus, you'll know a lot of information. You'll notice all this information about COSMA. COSMA is our accrediting body and stands for the Commission on Sport Management Accreditation. We are one of the charter members of this prestigious international organization, and this COSMA membership requires basically that we take a look at ourselves. We receive input from students and industry practitioners, faculty, staff, and we put those into reports every single year, and these reports allow us the opportunity to focus on our programs and the content that we're providing for students and practitioners in the workplace. It essentially becomes an opportunity for us to quote unquote put our money where our mouth is, because what we can do is really bridge that gap between what students are needing and what practitioners are wanting in terms of employees within the industry. The rationale for this course, in my mind anyway, is pretty simple. There are two main ideas that undergird why this course was structured the way that it was. The first involves this question. Just simply look at the picture. What do you see? Take a moment and just really kind of study the picture to the left. For me anyway, what we first notice is that's a black and white picture of a football game. This football game is very important because that's a social experience, isn't it? You know, what I see teammates on the ground, kind of back over here. That means these individuals are working together to try to accomplish a goal. That's social psychology. I see a young man right here over on the left-hand side of the picture that's running with the football. He's trying to maximize his personal athletic performance. This involves psychology. Now then in the back, what I want you to look at is all this stuff back here. What I see is a crowd. Potentially thousands of people were watching these individuals play the game of football. That is going to be a lot of what sociology gives us. These three distinct branches of social science help us to examine these similar activities of sport, recreation, and physical activity. Analytically, they're pretty similar, sport, recreation, and physical activity. They are different, but for our purposes, we'll be able to utilize and talk interchangeably about all these three different things. Additionally, the institution and the industry that many of you are going to be involved with involve sport, recreation, and physical activity, which is why we lump them together. The second rationalization for me for this class involves application. Social science oftentimes gets labeled as not doing enough, and it's too much talking or thinking. And this is a fair criticism. As a result, we want to take the social scientific concepts and apply them to our understanding of sport, recreation, and physical activity. The more we understand about these activities, then the more that we can positively impact the industry. Asking questions and providing answers is really what social science does. It's what it's all about. But people are complicated. Sports are complicated. As a result, the questions and the answers that we will find without a doubt are going to be complicated, and they must be contextualized. Decisions are made every single day in this industry, and as you all prepare to be leaders in this industry, the more that you know about how to analyze a situation, then the better prepared you all are going to be to make the appropriate decision. But you need to know about our industry first, and at the core of our industry is this idea of the person or of people. We need to understand all the different ways that people emote, relate, or identify with sport. That requires you, as a future leader, to have a large reservoir of knowledge to pull from so that you can do what is right for yourself, the people you work with, and then ultimately down the line, your community. What is knowledge then? It seems commonsensical, but when pressed, many people have a hard time explaining what knowledge actually is. In this instance, then, we can rely on Plato, the famous Greek philosopher. I'm a big fan of looking around and seeing what ideas are out there, currently or historically, and let the ideas sort of standing on the shoulders of giants, let the ideas that people have already developed inform how we understand the world around us now. And it can help to close the gap in knowledge that we may have. Plato, for example, spent a very long time and devoted a lot of time to conceptualize what knowledge actually is, and it's going to be an important starting point for us. Essentially, Plato said that there are two things that make up the foundational elements of knowledge. First, you have truth. The second part, belief. As these two circles intersect, that's where knowledge is going to come from. Believing, that's the hard part. Because it challenges you, it forces you to confront how you view the world. This means you have to critically examine everything. For example, does participating in high school sports keep young men out of trouble? All right, if that's kind of the example that we're going to use, that's the question, that's what we want to have knowledge about. Some statistics say yes, others say no. So you will need to put your biases aside, whatever your opinion on this topic actually is, and actually examine the evidence that is in front of you. Sport participation is associated with a host of many benefits, especially for young women. But we are talking about young men in this particular example. Many high schools require a mandated GPA, or grade point average, so that athletes are able to be eligible. Well, if this is the case, then you might be able to look and see that many of these male athletes have a higher grade point average than other non-student athlete males in the high school culture. Why? Is it because athletes are smarter? It's hard to say. What we would say is that there's something in place, a structure in place that mandates that they have to have a higher GPA. Some other factors to consider. Think about high school culture and popularity and how sport participation is oftentimes associated with those ideas. Can we simply answer this question right here and right now? Yeah, probably not. But Plato's view of the development of knowledge, which we know to be a crucial factor in being a successful leader, requires us to understand what the current state of sport is, and that's the truth part, and how that actually intersects with this whole idea of belief. The intersection of truth and belief right here in the middle, this is knowledge. This is what we're going for. This process never ends, and there are various ways of knowing how to be a part of and interact with the social world around us. The social sciences can help us see those processes. The processes, as Plato called them, are known as different ways of knowing. There are four major different ways of knowing that are associated with Plato's view of the world. And these correspond to key concepts and ideas within psychology, sociology, and social psychology that we'll talk about. The first one is emotion. Emotion is a powerful individual feeling that can lead us as people to act. Think of it as energy in motion. Emotion allows us to feel excitement or despair and can be a motivating factor for starting a workout routine, for example, or maybe buying season tickets for your favorite professional basketball team, or even perhaps learning more about how to be a better leader within your sport organization. Emotions, which are usually associated with the domain of psychology, are powerful antecedents to behavior, meaning they come first. Essentially, emotions can activate us, and they really do play an important role in how we understand the world around us. Reason is another way of knowing. There are a lot of business leadership seminars that teach those in sport organizations how to rationally think through problems, how to negotiate different strategies, and how to logically set goals for individual employees. Reason relies heavily on science, truth, and understanding of the world around us. Next are perceptions. Perceptions are the manifestations of who we are. Perceptions can be shared among people, but include our own personal experiences. My perception of the Chicago Bears, an NFL team, is not a positive one. All right, and this is personal. This is because I'm a lifelong Green Bay Packers fan. Many people do not share, especially in this part of the world, my love of the Green Bay Packers. Many people also do not share my love of the game of lacrosse. I love lacrosse because when I was young, we had neighbors when I was growing up and living in New Mexico that were from upstate New York. In upstate New York, lacrosse is a very popular game. They had 3 boys, there were 3 of us Vermilion boys, and we all played together. I learned and began loving lacrosse during that time. My perception as a result of lacrosse is that it's a wonderful game with suspense and action, and it's very physical, but other people do not share that same perception. Neither is wrong, neither is right. It's just different experiences that influence our current views and our tastes. Finally is language. Language is a powerful way to know and learn. It's simply a powerful symbol. The greatest definition, in my opinion, within all of the social sciences is the definition of a symbol. Okay? It's something that stands for something else. That's wonderful. Think about how this applies to language. If a football play is, 42 scat right, spider banana on 3, if you don't understand that language, then that phrase that I just said is nonsensical and doesn't mean anything to you. That play, though, it communicates and symbolizes a specific behavior for me, for example, and my teammates. The opposing team, in theory, would not know that language, and as a result, we, as one team, would be more successful than the other team. Think of the jargon that's endemic to all organizations where we work. Knowing the language means that you can fit in and you can be a part of that group. Not knowing the language means you're an outsider. Have you ever traveled alone, for example, to another country where you didn't speak or read the language? If you have, then you really know what I'm talking about. You know what Plato is talking about. Knowing the world involves a lot of different things. It involves who we are as people, our emotions, and the environments around us, and how we interact ultimately with the people around us. So what are we going to do in this class? First and foremost, I want to connect our common sense to social scientific concepts. I want to identify how these concepts within the social sciences help to explain the world of sport, recreation, and physical activity that you all are going to be a part of. Next, we want to understand why we want to explain the world of sport, recreation, and physical activity. We want to understand it because we can make better decisions if we understand what's going on around us. And finally, we want to make social science and all these different concepts as part of an applied activity. And in the application of knowledge is what's really going to set you apart from your other peers as you move through the industry and into your particular occupations and professions. I simply wanted to leave you at the end of this presentation with a few thoughts that sort of help to set up our next lecture within this particular section of the course. There are 2 major themes of the class that we've talked about, right? This whole idea of applied learning or application and people, or essentially the human element. As you can see from the quotes on this particular slide, if you keep doing the same thing, then you will predictably get the same types of results. change by way of organizational or individual interventions can help to evolve both individuals and organizations. Before we can implement change, though, we need to understand how and why organizations behave the way that they do. And this is where research comes into play. And we'll talk more about in our next presentation about research, about interventions, and how if we want to maintain the positive relationship that many of the people in this class have with sport, we need to understand the institution even more.